Hi guys, welcome to episode 2 uh, of our dream test team from the year 2000 onwards. We had quite a few comments and opinions shared about this show for the number 3 position, which we're very happy to see. It's not all about agreeing with us, it's all about having a discussion. And we all love talking about cricket and sharing our opinions, so it's been much appreciated. And you can have a chat about this after the show as well. So we'll get on with it then. So at the moment, just to confirm the openers, we had Alistair Cook and Graeme Smith.
Sir Alistair Cook, please.
Oh, sorry, Sir Alistair. Sorry, Frazia, I don't want to upset you or offend you. So today we're going to go on to the number 3 position. In most teams or around cricket cliches, number 3 is seen as one of the most important positions. So we'll start off with our first nomination. We're starting off with a bang. It's the main man, Ricky Ponting. He's got 196 innings. By the way, guys, before I go on to it, the context of all this is that we're not saying that all the nominations have played the most number of innings at number 3 or the most number of innings even in their own career at number 3. We're just saying that they've played enough innings at that position, batted there for 3, 4, 5 years, where we've had enough time to think that they've proven themselves at that position. So that's why it's not just based on stats. So Ricky Ponting again, then 196 innings at that position, 32 centuries, just under 10,000 runs, an average of 56.27. Now, I'm going to start off with Frazia. He's just a big boy, isn't he, Ricky Ponting? So we know he's a bully with the bat.
But just sorry, you gave the stat there. Was that the stats that you're giving on his number position?
Yeah. All these stats in this show are just based on the number 3 position. That's it. So I know it sounds like it's his career average because he got so many runs and so many centuries, but
he's got about 13. He's got about 13,000 plus. He's the second in the list for all time.
Yeah, he played quite a few. I think 2-3 years at the start at number 5 and 6 before he got his way into the number 3 position. Frazia, Ricky Ponting. Yeah, I know he destroyed England quite a few times. So what are you going to say about him?
Ricky Ponting, well, to be honest, there's not many things I'm speechless with this guy as well. He was a phenomenal player. Yeah. I mean, first time I saw him really was in the 99 World Cup.
Okay.
That was when I was really into cricket and the first time, that's when I really saw what this guy is capable of. Obviously in the white ball version, I remember him playing against a group game against Pakistan. And I remember him pulling Shoaib Akhtar in front of square.
Yeah.
And Shoaib Akhtar was bowling really quick in that World Cup, as you know.
Yeah.
And not many players can do that.
Yeah.
For me, he was the best puller and hooker of a cricket ball.
Okay.
I was gonna get mixed up with my words there. Sorry. Yeah. One of the best pullers and hookers I've ever seen.
Yeah, and he pulled off the front foot, didn't he? Doesn't matter how quick you were, or how quick the pitch was. Yeah, he pulled off the front foot.
Phenomenal player of pace, pace bowling, and he wasn't so bad against spin as well, to be honest. So that in a few words, I mean, the stats prove it themselves. You know, he was averaging, I think, at the top of my head, I remember him when he was retiring. They were on about him averaging what he was averaging away from him as well. It was nearing 50. So, his averaging away from home was nearing 50. So, in my eyes, a legend of the game. And, he's like you said, he's battered England so many times. So, I don't really know.
So, thank you. So, Battery, coming on to you, obviously, at the start of Ponting's career, he played against a lot of greats, including Wasim Akram, Pollock, Donald, Walsh, Ambrose, these guys, and he still had some great statistics. So, what do you think, apart from obviously we talked about the hook and the pull and it's just his numbers, what do you think his biggest strength was as a player?
I think the biggest strength, I mean, talking about his hook and pull, that was a trademark shot, front foot pull and hook. I mean, I don't see many, you see odd few play him today, but he was renowned for it in an era where there's fast bowlers. In terms of the type of batsman he was very aggressive, yeah, and he was a leader, he took captaincy. Like Fraz mentioned white ball, but you have to remember, obviously we're talking about test match, but this guy led, he ruled, when Australia ruled that era, he was the captain. So this guy was leading from the front. Yeah, I mean, what summed this guy up? I remember, was it Javigal Shirinath when he bounced him and hit him, and he sort of told him to do one, like get back to your
I
crease.
think Sami, did Mohammed Sami not hit him as well?
Sami hit him. There was Harmison, I think, in the Ashes hit him as well, where he split him.
Yeah.
But I remember early on when Javigal Shirinath, I think Mark Waugh, Steve Waugh, one of the Waugh brothers was batting with him, and he hit him. And he sort of, how a bowler normally goes up to sort of say out, and he sort of like swore at him and said, get back to your mark, you go back on bowl.
Yeah.
And that kind of summed up Ricky Ponting for me in a nutshell. I mean, we could talk about that guy. I mean, he's one of the.
So we've got to move on, but it's one of the things, as you both have said, his batting was focused, was mainly around that. I'm going to come at you as well.
He had great fighting spirit.
Yeah, and to be honest with you,
look, in our era, we've seen from 2000 onwards, sort of that 90s and 2000s, and this guy is the second leading run scorer after Tendulkar in all tests.
But so we talked obviously highly of him. Now he had obviously near the end of his career, last 3 or 4 years, actually he actually lost the hook and pull shot. He's actually started to struggle, and that was the beginning at the end of his career because he just couldn't play the pull shot, hook shot near the end.
There was only one weakness.
The spin was poor. I know the spin again.
His average in India was 26 only. He had averaged 40 in England. 41 in England, but his average in India, for an Australian, obviously, at that time, playing spin, he did, but in India he struggled. But not a lot of people do. So I'm not going to say, but it was that one.
Yeah, but to be honest, Battery, it was that the 2001 series obviously was a really shambolic series for him. I think Harbhajan was getting about for first or second ball pretty much throughout the series. But to be fair play to him, near the end of his career, he actually scored 100 in India and actually improved against the spin. So he did show that capability. So moving on to another massive player of our era as well, Rahul Dravid. Now his stats, I can't believe they're good as they are as well. So 219 innings at number 3, 28 centuries, over 10,500 runs, an average of 52.88. Now, I'll start off with you, Battery. Now, stats-wise are comparable to Ponting, but in terms of the players, completely different to Ponting. He was more about put in.
Stats-wise, what was this guy known for? Let's look at stats first, just to put him aside, and then we'll talk. Yeah. Stats-wise, he actually scored more than Ponting in this position. Yeah. In terms of what this guy was, they didn't name him the Wall for no reason. This guy was solid as it comes. Mate, Test cricket is talent, technique, and temperament, and he ticked all 3 boxes. Fast bowling. He played fast bowling in an era, and there were certain games where this guy I used to see him, bowlers coming in at 90 plus, and his defense was just rock solid. Yeah. And you know what? He may have not been the most pleasing to the eye. Yeah. And he played in an era where sort of, Sachin and other Indian batsmen kind of got a lot of credit, and he was kind of the unsung hero. But he did, how in the football terms, he did a lot of the dirty work, but they got unnoticed. Yeah. This guy was a class. This guy.
Yeah. But what it was, Brett, you're right. I think in an era in the late 90s, especially where Indians were becoming very fond of white ball cricket, I think some of them forgot to appreciate Rahul Dravid. So for us, in terms of him as a player, in England, he averaged over 68. In Australia, averaged over 41, which wasn't bad considering the bowlers he's playing against. And in New Zealand, he averaged over 68 as well. So he's one of the few subcontinent players that actually dominated also away from home. So you saw him a lot in England as well. And even at the end of his career, that 2011 tour, where he was pretty much past his best, he was still dominating in England. So apart from obviously his technique, what do you think made him such a great player?
The best thing I think to judge a player from the subcontinent is coming to England, which I think is probably the hardest thing for a subcontinent player. One, because you're playing against the Duke's ball, which no other country uses, by the way. Yeah. So against the Duke's ball, against overhead conditions in England, which change like every half an hour,
if you survive that long,
the sun's out, and then the rain comes back. So to average well in England and playing the swinging ball is a massive, massive thing for an Indian player, especially. And Dravid played that so well.
Yeah, he was one of the best. He played it so late, didn't he? And he didn't go out the ball.
So late. And someone that reminds me of Dravid is Kane Williamson.
Good comparison, yeah. The play very
reminds me of him a lot. His technique is very, very similar to Dravid.
So Frazia, in terms of obviously his innings, a few innings come to mind. The 2001 Kolkata, the partnership he had with Lakshman, the Adelaide innings where he scored a double century to win that test match, and as I said, the 2011 series. So he's one of the standout players in our era. So coming nicely onto, you mentioned it, Frazia, Kane Williamson. Now, obviously, there's an asterisk next to his stats because I'm sure they're going to get a lot better and he's going to get a lot more runs and centuries. So at the moment, he has played 125 innings at number 3, ridiculous 22 centuries. So over 6,500 runs, averaging over nearly 58 with the bat. Considering Frazia, he plays at New Zealand where the pitches are very lively for the bowlers on the first 2 days. They do flatten out after that, but the first 2 days are very lively. I mean, especially for New Zealander, they're not known for these kind of high-scoring batsmen. What do you think of him, apart from the technique, as I said, on his soft hands? What's his biggest strength and what makes him such a top world-class player?
Well, apparently in New Zealand, it's a very, very small country, first of all. Their first-class setup isn't great.
Yeah.
There's not much talent there if you look at it. I mean, if you look at New Zealand cricket in a whole, in the last 30 odd years, they've not really produced amazing test cricketers.
Yeah.
Okay. There's only a handful.
They're more like as a combination, as a team, they outdo other teams as a team as overall, but not as
they are a very, very, united team, and they want to, obviously, all of the players chip in. But there's not been many outstanding players from New Zealand in the last 30 odd years.
Obviously, Martin Crowe as a batsman.
Even except maybe Martin Crowe as a batsman, maybe Stephen Fleming,
Ross Taylor,
and Brendan McCullum at the end of his career as well became a very good hitter as well. But like I said, Williamson for me right now is the new Dravid.
Yeah.
For me, and that is a very, very big compliment.
So thank you. So battery on Williamson, I've just done a look. He's got amazing stats, but in South Africa he averages 21. In England, he averages 30, and in Australia, it's a bit better, just over 40. So do you think that's his next challenge to take him into the next level of players where we talk about potential legend of the game or all-time great player? Do you reckon that's the next challenge?
With Williamson, but I think, like you said, these stats, and like you said, anyone from that sort of sphere, sort of that side of the kind of not they're going to be judged how they get on in subcontinent, and England and New Zealand very similar in terms of seaming and swinging condition depending on what type of year that you play in. But the thing is, Williamson, he's got time in his hand yet. We're going to see Williamson for a long time yet. So the fact that in 5 to sort of 8 years time, if he stays around, let's be honest, at the rate that he's scoring, he's going to be up there.
He's going to be one of those, like, as Frazia said rightly, he's going to be like a Dravid type of player in terms of when we talk about him.
Like a Dravid. See, but Kane Williamson, again, Dravid's a brilliant example. He leads from the front, is a captain, comes in at 3, and he just soaks up pressure so well. And it's a prize wicket. And like you said, again, talent, technique, temperament. And with Williamson, the beauty of him is, obviously, we're talking about test here, but he adjusts his game to all formats. He's very effective in T20. He's very effective in ODI, and he plays according to the situation. And he is, again, like you said, Dravid is a very good comparison.
And he's a very orthodox player. And for orthodox player, modern day to, as you said, T20 cricket, one-day cricket to dominate, he could score a striker at 140 without you realizing, and just playing normal, authentic cricket shots. So that's a big plus for him. So now, Badri, we're going to move on to another massive player, Kumar Sangakkara. Again, I was shocked. Obviously, we don't look at stats normally like this, like we don't look for this show, but Sangakkara, 207 innings at number 3, 37 centuries.
Wow.
11,679 runs, at average of over 60. Now, come on. Wow. I know we said it's not about stats, but those are ridiculous.
This guy, when you go on stats, but this guy is purely, on stats, he's the highest number 3 in the world in Test cricket. It's mad. This guy's stats are ridiculous. Mate, honestly, what can I say? Elegant. You know what I mean? This guy was just elegant, oozed class. You know what I mean? You know, if you look at the lefties, you know, you should look at the era before. You used to look at Arjuna Ranatunga.
Yeah.
And this guy was just, you know, a lefty. A lefty always looks elegant, yeah? And this guy, it's just something about it. And he was, you know, and the thing is, I know he took on keeping sort of, I don't know how
career, yeah, he was a keeper, yeah.
But keeping, I'm batting at 3, you know.
I don't think he kept very much at, when he batted number 3, but I think you got to give credit to selectors with Sangakkara, because I've read that maybe he was a bit reluctant to give up the wicket keeping, and he was happy to bat at 4 and 5, but obviously the selectors spotted something and said that your batting is more important to us than your wicket keeping, and that's proven right. He's got the world class stats. So for
he averaged 60 in Australia, brother.
And you've got that play that innings at Hobart as well when he was unluckily given out 190. So for him, Sangakkara is similar to Dravid in terms of a brilliant player of spin, but his playing of pace bowling, I mean, even on the front foot and the back foot, is probably better off than Dravid on the front foot as well against this fast bowling. Now, he just oozed class, and he could dominate and just stick in as well. And he's one of those guys that if he got in, you just thought that's it, he's here for the long haul. And he did it to England many times as well.
I mean, to be honest, you guys have pretty much said what I was going to say. But the first memories I remember of Sangakkara was in a one-day series against South Africa back in early 2000s, I think it was. And he absolutely blitzed Sean Pollock in that game. And that's the first time I actually saw him play.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, this guy is here to stay.
Yeah.
And I think it was one of his first test matches against England. I think England had a test match in South Africa. In Sri Lanka. In the early 2000s.
Yeah, that was 2000. That infamous series when the umpiring was terrible. Remember?
That's right. And I remember Sangakkara having an altercation with Atherton.
Yes.
And Atherton and Sangakkara having a bit of a row on field. And that's when I really knew that this guy, this guy's got a bit about him. There's a bit of fight in him. He's got that fighting spirit, and it showed. The guy oozed class, and the best thing about Sangakkara was he carried himself off the field very well as well.
Yeah,
he's a very well outspoken guy, and he actually knew a lot about the game as well. So, full credit to the guy. He's an amazing player.
And him and Jai Warden pretty much carried the test team for about a decade as well. So moving on to next one, Fraz, I'll come to you. There's been a bit of controversy about this nomination, but Jacques Kallis. Now, again, just to remind people that this guy actually played 78 innings at number 3. Now, 78 innings, if you remember, if you bat pretty much twice every innings, that's 40 test matches, which is probably about 4 years worth of test cricket. And obviously, most of the time, you're not batting twice. So this guy batted at number 3 for about 5 or 6 years. And that's how he made his name in a world-class all-rounder. So again, he got 9 centuries at that position, over 3,000 runs, average of 49.78. Now, Frazia, this guy, he was a great player, but more than a great player for himself, because of his all-round skills, he made South Africa into a great team, more than what he was doing himself individually. So we're talking about his batting at the moment. As a batsman only, what do you think of him? Do you reckon he was just, again, the technique or resilience was a bit more to him than that?
Well, what can I say about this guy?
Yeah.
Mike Hussey got the name of Mr. Cricket.
Yeah.
But this guy should have been Mr. Cricket, let's be honest.
Yeah.
The guy, just purely on his batting right now, he could bat number 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yeah. Let's be honest. Come on. The guy is that good. He could have got into any one of those positions. And when you're actually just having a bit of fun around at home and selecting a world 11, and you sometimes forget about Jacques Kallis, which I find that bamboozling, really. I don't know why people do it. The guys, like I said, the guy is probably, after maybe Gary Sobers, is the best all-rounder in the world, or was the best all-rounder in the world ever. And just purely on his batting, the guy had it all. You name me what he didn't have. He played spin well, he played pace well, he played everything.
Yeah, I'll come to Bertie on this now. Bertie, Kallis, during his career, especially up until for the last 6-7 years, there was criticism that he played a little bit for himself. He didn't assess the situation that much in Test cricket. And even in bowling, he was a very reluctant bowler. Graeme Smith sometimes had to beg him to come and bowl. Now, do you think this guy, obviously stats-wise we know, but do you reckon he could have achieved even more for the team, especially as well, than what he did in looking back at the end of his career?
What he did for the team, I don't think any South African could do, Bobo.
Yeah.
I think it's unfair criticism. Obviously, you've had Smith. You have to realise what South Africa cricket went through. Yeah, everything. This guy, but he said, Fraza said Gary Sobers, yeah. For me, in my era of watching Test cricket, he is the best all-rounder I'm going to see. Near enough 300 Test wickets, yeah. And then add his runs. The guy's the third all highest. I know it's on stats, but sometimes you have to put it into context. The third highest scorer in tests. After Sachin Tendulkar, after Ponting, and then he's third. So forget his 300 wickets. Yeah, 300 wickets just for a bowler is brilliant.
That's what we said, Bertie. Remember the other day we said a proper genuine all-rounder is one that can get in for the batting or the bowling, and this guy could.
Because look, we say genuine all-rounders in T20s and ODIs. There's no, when he sort of retired T20, played a bit of IPL and that. But this guy was the genuine all. He stood out.
Not much. It's hard, and you're forgetting he's catching at first slip.
What we're remembering here, this discussion, this how good this guy is, that we're putting his wickets to a side and we're just talking about his batting, and he can hold his own. And that's a sign of a batsman, of a genuine all-rounder, that he can get in the team for his batting and he can get in the team for his bowling skill set on, and two individual. 300 wickets and 13,000 plus test runs. I don't think I need to say.
As you said, great cricketer. So, Bertie, moving nicely onto him from Kallis to Amla. So, Amla starts again ridiculous. 174 innings at number 3, 25 centuries, average of just a shade under 50. And again, just under 8,000 runs. Now, this guy, these two are symmetry in terms of they pretty much swap positions. So, when Amla went to 3, he replaced, and Kallis went to number 4. Now, before I ask your opinion about him, Bertie, that in 2004, when this guy made his debut, very early in his South African career, played against England, England fans are mocking him because of his technique. He was pretty much a walking wicket in that series. Then turning the tables in the end in his career against England, he averaged over 60 and pretty much dominated nearly every time he played them. So do you reckon his mental resilience was the biggest thing in his career that made him into such a top-class, world-class batsman?
Yeah, that inning was it Oval, Bobo, that stands out, that 290?
To 300 he scored, I think, that innings.
Sorry, the triple century.
Maybe the first South Africa potentially, I think, could have been there to get a triple century.
I think it was.
Yeah.
It was.
I might be wrong.
That was, yeah.
Yeah. That innings, this guy was, again, he was class. Like you said, initially, early on in his technique, he was very sort of, getting snicked off, and a lot of people sort of said a lot, and a lot of people wrote him off. Yeah. But again, worked on his technique, his mental sort of strength, and it reflected in his batting. The guy was just, again, someone that sort of performed all over the world.
He did, averaged 62 against India, in India.
Yeah. India, Australia, was it above, what was it? Late
45 in Australia, but he played some top-class innings there as well, in Australia.
Yeah.
Took Richard Johnson apart a couple of times.
In England, what was his England stats?
In England, he averaged over 60.
There you go. And for someone from South Africa to perform in India, Australia, and England with those stats.
So Frazia, again, talk about Amla, so in terms of, he's similar to Sehwag in terms of didn't rely on foot movement, he relied on balance and his hands and the way he played with the wristiness. Now, are you surprised that he averaged so highly in England, or do you reckon just, again, his resilience and his pure ability that kind of got him through and let him dominate around the world?
You touched up on it when he debuted. I actually clearly remember that game when he debuted, and Steve Harmison was bowling at him.
Yeah.
And Steve Harmison was just bowling full and straight Yorker length balls, and Amla was just falling over.
Yeah.
His technique was questioned, but then again, it's a first Test match and it's a debut series, so everyone's going to be nervous. And against Harmison, which at that point, Harmison was possibly the best bowler in the world.
2004 time, just before the Ashes when all the bowling attack was going together.
Yeah, Harmison was at pomp. then. You know, he was bowling mid-90s and he was bowling quick. So, yeah, I mean, Amla was questioned with this technique, but like you said, the great players, they find a way.
Yeah, and again, just finish off on Amla. Remember in that 2004, with the South Africa political situation, people were saying again, it's just a pick to fill the quota at that time. They were saying he wasn't picked on merit, so it must be very difficult for a player to go through that. So next one, it's only fair if I come to battery first. Younis Khan. Now, again, as I said before, he batted a lot in number 4 as well, but at number 3, 83 innings, 13 centuries, over 4,000 runs, the average at over 51. In the modern day era for a Pakistani batsman, that's brilliant. But Battery, again, this guy was more than just his runs. It was just his enthusiasm, the way he played the game, the way it was all about the team for him. So when you think about Younis Khan, what's the first thing that comes into your mind?
His smile. You know, his sort of, and what I mean by that is he always played with a smile on his face. You know, he played with a smile, and that kind of reflected in the type of guy that he is. I mean, you have to look at his career initially. For him to break through that middle order of Pakistan was kind of tough back then. Yeah. And sort of, you know, not having this guy now, when him and Misbah left, you kind of realize how much of a big hole Pakistan's batting in test matches is. I mean, we've had the pleasure, me and you, to watch him live and get over it. And you know, when you watch him in the ground, you know you're watching the series.
And how hard he works. Even I remember one of the games after that, he was running around the ground. He got 78 that day in the heat.
You know, his love, his discipline, his whole sort of, you know, his approach to the game, like Bobo said, you know, his training and, you know, his fitness and this side of it. I mean, I remember, you know, speaking to him after the Edgbaston Test match, the famous 2-2 one, and, you know, just having a laugh with him and saying, you know, form is temporary. He was struggling in that series massively. And he says class is permanent. You know, I was laughing when he was saying class is permanent. And I think that was the test match where I think he spoke, Sunil Gavaskar, was it Azruddin called him? Yeah.
Oh, you talk about the oval one, double century.
Yeah.
2016. Oh, the one where they drew the series. Yes. Yeah.
2-2. He was struggling.
He was struggling running at the start.
Remember when they were saying he was like a ballerina and his
jumping,
and then he went and scored that big sort of. He got the double 100, didn't he? When he batted with the tail.
Double 100, and then leveled this. That was a great series. It leveled up.
That was his last knock in England, didn't it? That was his last knock.
That was the last one. They missed him and Misbah retired the next year against in the West Indies tour.
That was their last. Yeah, that was her.
So Farazi, as Battery said, he was one of those characters that was not kind of outspoken. He didn't say a lot. He kind of worked hard. He wasn't the kind of most exciting player to watch. And you know, when Pakistan had all these talented players early in his career, he was kind of hidden out the limelight, especially the likes of Yusuf, Inzamam, the big players. But in the end of his career, he averaged over 50 against Australia when he played against McGrath, Vaughan, Lee, Gillespie. Over 50 against England, when England did have some nice green pitches with a top bowling attack. And even in New Zealand, he averaged over 43. And he had a brilliant tour of India in 2005. So Farazi, in terms of as a batsman, as a character, as a whole one, how highly do you rate this guy?
You know, I don't really keep much interest with Pakistani players for some reason. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just kidding, guys.
Well, they score enough runs against your team, so you should be able to.
Yeah, I actually keep an eye on my enemies more than I do my own players, to be fair. Younis Khan, I'll be honest with you, for me, it's a big statement coming up. I honestly think he's possibly Pakistan's greatest ever batsman.
Wow, that's a massive statement.
It is, because let's be honest. Whenever you name Pakistani greats, who comes to mind straight away? Inzi, Imran Khan for his all-round abilities.
Zahir Abbas.
And then
Javed Miandad, these guys. Now you rate him.
Then you got Saeed Anwar, Javed Miandad, these kind of players.
So,
and Younis Khan goes unnoticed for some reason. I don't know why.
So Farazi, for you to even say that he's in the category of Javed Miandad and Zahir Abbas and Inzamam just shows you how highly you rate him. And I think that's the case with most of us. Even if you don't agree he's the best Pakistani batsman, we would all agree he's one of the most. He's put the most effort and got the most out of his ability than pretty much any Pakistan batsman. Because I don't think he's the most talented, but he got everything out of him that he had in him.
He found a way. Nobody found a way.
We did. We're going to quickly finish off with Pujara because I think we've got more, more likely candidates than him. So 126 innings, 17 centuries, over 5,500 runs, averaging just over 47. And the reason why I put him in there is because of the way he's on 2 consecutive tours of Australia, the way he's blunted a top-class Australian bowling attacks and to help India win their series away. And he's pretty much done it all over the world in terms of, I wouldn't say all over the world actually, but he's done it to a lot of teams in terms of where he just kind of, sometimes you think you can't move him, you can't dismiss him. So Battery, in terms of Pujara, we'll compare him more to modern day actually. Where do you think, how highly do you rate him as a modern day test batsman?
A lot of people were shocked in the inclusion of them. And I was, at first, I thought, hang on a minute, what the hell? When you compare, but we're talking about 2000 onwards and we're on about that batting position, number 3. Yeah. And for India, he's the new Kohli. Sorry, not new Kohli, the new Dravid.
Dravid, yeah.
And he has a certain technique, may not be the most, pretty on the eye, but what he does, he allows the others to sort of express themselves and seize off that new ball. And for me, his number in this position sort of speak for themselves. He's up there, he's sort of in the top. When we're looking at sort of players, we're looking at sort of 2000 onwards who's played. Yeah. And sort of recent era as well. I'm not saying he's the best. Yeah. He's definitely up there for number 3 position. Yeah.
Just finishing on him, Battery. Just finishing on him. That is no coincidence in the recent England-India tour. The fact that he had a really poor series meant India didn't really get any big scores. I'm sure if he'd got stuck in, the India might have got more runs. So there we have it, our 8 nominations. Now the interesting part, I'll come to you first, Frazia. Now, one pick. Now you've got, who are you going to go with out of these players? And why?
Very tough. Very, very tough selection, I'll be honest with you. For me, personally, it's a toss-up for me.
Okay, no toss-ups allowed. You're going to have to pick one. We've done all the toss-ups. We've talked about all 8 of them.
It's very tough. It is very, very tough when it comes to this.
Yeah, it's not easy. I admit, but you've got to do it.
They are, and I didn't touch upon Pujara. He is the best Indian player right now for me. If it's even Kohli said it, Pujara.
You're delaying. I know if you're buying yourself time here.
Okay.
What are you trying to do?
For me, it's gonna be Ponting.
Okay, so for Azia Ponting, that as we said, fair enough. That we're picking based on conditions all around the world. Now, do you think all around the world in terms of seaming, swinging, pace, and spin, do you reckon he's going to score more runs than someone like Sangakkara, or if you're playing all over the world?
Like I said, it wasn't an easy decision for me.
No, but obviously, if you're going with him, you're thinking he's better than Sangakkara.
For me, I don't know why. I don't know why Ponting stands out for me. I mean, maybe he's playing more against England. But
okay, Frazia, fair enough. You go to Ponting. We'll come back to you.
For me, he stands out the way he played against everyone. Pace-wise, batting-wise, and everything. So
fair enough. So Battery will come to you then. Who are you going with?
For me, look, him. For me, those are 2 obvious candidates. It was Rahul Dravid and Ponting. Both of them had a very similar career, same innings, and it could be either one, to be honest with you. And you can argue a case for both, And for me, I just feel that Ricky Ponting at number 3 is one of those positions. When I think 3, I think Ponting.
Yeah, fair enough. It's absolutely fine.
You know what? For me, Dravid was a close. I'll be honest with you, Dravid was close. But for me, when I think 3, I think Ponting. And
fair enough. But do you reckon Battery? So do you reckon that's more the way he played, his aggressive style?
It's the reason why he played, and in the era that he played against, when fast bowling was at his peak, when every country had 1 or 2. One world class, and when I mean express bowling, they had it, and he's faced a lot.
Yeah, but I'm not saying I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Now, Ponting played in a world class team for pretty much even in open to the 2005 Ashes. He had actually till the end of 2006-07 when Warne, McGrath, and Langer retired. I think it was a world class team until then. Now,
yeah, but there's so many Dravid, Bobo.
Yeah, that's when it's so Dravid did as well. So that's what I'm coming back onto. Obviously, I'm probably giving me my own bias. Now, when people say when they're looking at a number 3 batsman, they want a guy that you want to be coming in when the team's 0 for 1. And you also want to be batting if you're 100 for 1 that can push the game forward as well. Now, for me, just saying personally, Ponting is a guy that you love to have 100 for 1. But if it's 0 for 1 and the ball's seemingly swinging around and with his technique, as if a lot of time he fell over early on as well. Now, I'm not sure if I'd want him coming in. I probably want Dravid coming in at that stage. So now, if we're looking at the mix of the two players, for me, Sangakkara is a mix of both.
Scenario, Bobo, and then it's like, okay, I agree, but for me, I just think you have to take.
So I've given I'll play devil's advocate. I've said in terms of Sangakkara playing generally a weaker team and all around the world. But
of course,
we mentioned Ponting's spin weakness and Dravid's all around been class as well. But
can I just say one thing, please?
Yeah.
It's a big statement again. I think Ricky Ponting, after Viv Richards, is the best player of seam and fast bowling I've ever seen.
Okay, and that's actually a big statement. But thinking about it, yeah,
he played pace. He picked up pace better than any other player I've ever seen.
I tell you who did, and this is I tell you who used to pick line and length up and pass fast bowling, and this is, I'm not saying Inzamam ul Haq used to do that.
Yeah. But Inzamam, I'm sure he's going to come up later in our discussions anyway. But I don't think you would want Inzamam batting at 3 in your. He had his few technical issues as well.
No, he'd be having his lunch.
Yeah, he'd be having his lunch. He'll be sleeping, having his lunch. So there we have it, guys. We've gone for Ricky Ponting. I think it was a difficult decision, first of all, for the nominations. And even then, I think
even to leave Kallis, Sanga, and Dravid.
Let's be honest, they could all be number 3.
Yeah.
And if anyone did pick them, I'll be honest with you, you can always have an argument for them.
And also, to be honest, we've got to have a balance to our team. So we've got Graeme Smith and Cook, the 2 guys that can get stuck in. So number 3, maybe it's good to have a guy that can take the game forward and a right-hander after 2 left-handers to maybe take the attack to the opposition. So maybe fair enough. Ricky Ponting seems like the sensible decision, and he was a world-class player, no doubt. So there we have it. We've got our 3 players now. Next episode is going to be number 4, and I think that's going to be even more. If you thought number 3 was difficult, number 4 is even more difficult, and there's going to be a lot of abuse coming my way. I've had a few messages, by the way, personal messages. Some of them have been slightly abusive, to be honest with you, but I think that's expected.
It's a tough job. This is
fan base getting stuck into you.
So it'd be nice, guys, if you're not personally abusive, but I think I'm sometimes asked for it as well, maybe. But there you go. So we're back very soon with the episode 3, and we'll be picking out number 4 batsman. We'll have our nominations out very soon. We need time to think. And again, please share your opinions about this show and what we've gone with so far, and obviously the future nominations. So thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me, Bertie and Fraza, and I'll see you soon.